There is something no one taught you in school. No one taught you that the voice in your head is not your enemy. No one taught you that your mind and your brain are not the same thing. Most people go through life believing that their brain is in charge, that if their thoughts are messy, then something must be broken inside them. But what if that is not true? What if your brain is not broken? What if it is simply responding to the energy you have been giving it? What if the part of you that feels heavy and overwhelmed is not because your brain is malfunctioning, but because your mind has been misdirected? The human brain is powerful, but it is also passive. It does not create thoughts. It does not initiate emotion. It does not move your fingers or make your heart beat. It does not know what to do unless you tell it. Your brain is like a computer, but you are not the computer. You are the coder. You are the energy source. You are the living force behind every breath and every reaction. That living force is called the mind, and it is 99% of who you are. Your mind is not stuck inside your skull. It is in your fingers. It is in your chest. It is in your gut. It is the reason you feel a lump in your throat when someone disappoints you. It is the reason your stomach turns before a hard conversation. That sensation is not just your body reacting, it is your mind sending signals to your entire system. That means you are not thinking from your head, you are thinking from your entire being. Your mind is the command center, and your brain is the interpreter. The mind gives direction, the brain follows instructions. So if you believe that your brain is the one driving your life, you will spend most of your time trying to fix symptoms instead of addressing causes. You will label your emotions as conditions. You will say, I have anxiety. You will say, I am depressed, but you are not. You are not depression. You are not anxiety. You are not stuck. You are experiencing a response from your mind that your brain has simply learned to follow. This truth is not just comforting, it is liberating, because it means you are not at the mercy of your thoughts. You are the architect of them. You are not a prisoner of your past. You are the author of how it lives inside you. The brain does not have the final word. You do. The moment you understand the difference between your brain and your mind is the moment everything changes. You stop asking, what is wrong with me? You start asking, what am I focusing on? You stop fighting the wiring of your brain and start rewriting it, because you can, because science has proven it, because thousands of people have done it, and because you are no different. The most important thing to remember is this: the brain does nothing by itself. It responds to input. It waits for instruction, and that instruction comes from you, from your thoughts, from your attention, from your internal narrative. That is the power of the mind. It shapes everything, and it never turns off. So the question is not, can I change? The question is, am I willing to direct my mind on purpose? Am I willing to take the driver's seat instead of riding along with my thoughts wherever they go? Am I willing to challenge the story I have been telling myself? Because the mind will always obey the strongest voice, and the strongest voice is the one you listen to the most. You do not need to be a neuroscientist to understand this. You just need to believe that your life can be different, that your mind is not broken, that your brain is not fixed, that change is possible. And it starts with clarity. Clarity about who is really in control. Clarity about what thoughts you allow to take root. Clarity about where the power really lives. It lives in you, not in your circumstances, not in your past, not in your pain. The power lives in your mind, and your mind lives everywhere you do. You are not weak because your thoughts are negative. You are simply unaware of the system that keeps them alive. You are not broken because you keep thinking the same fearful things. You are just caught in a loop that was never meant to control you. Most people are not stuck because they lack desire. They are stuck because they never learned how to interrupt the pattern. They never learned that the thoughts repeating in their mind are not reflections of truth. They are reflections of habit. Your mind is not loyal to what is good for you. It is loyal to what is familiar. So if fear has been your companion for years, your mind will cling to fear. If shame was planted early in your story, your mind will look for it everywhere. If someone once told you that you are not enough, your mind will begin to interpret every disappointment as proof. Not because you want it to be true, but because your mind has been trained to repeat what it has rehearsed the most. You cannot change what you tolerate, and most people tolerate negative thoughts because they believe they are normal. But just because something is common does not mean it is healthy. Just because millions of people live under a mental storm does not mean that you have to accept the thunder in your own head. You are allowed to want peace, even if everyone around you has settled for noise. The reason you feel stuck is because the thoughts you have been repeating have become your mental script. They fire so quickly and so automatically that you no longer question them. I cannot do this. They are gonna leave. I always mess up. Nothing works out for me. These are not just statements, they are rehearsals. Each repetition strengthens the connection inside your brain, creating a path that your mind walks without thinking. This is what neuroscience calls wiring. Your brain builds physical structures out of your repeated thoughts. These become patterns, networks, circuits. They are real, they grow. And unless you interrupt them, they become the default setting for how you view yourself in the world. That is why you can wake up on a good day and still feel anxious. That is why even when nothing is wrong, something inside feels off, because the structure is still there. The loop is still alive. But the good news is this: anything that was wired in through repetition can be rewired through repetition. The moment you realize this is the moment you begin to reclaim your authority. You stop asking why your brain is like this, and you start asking how your mind has been feeding it. What thoughts have I repeated? What memories have I rehearsed? What story have I accepted without challenge? This is not about blame, it is about responsibility. You are not responsible for what someone else said to you. You are not responsible for the pain that showed up without warning, but you are responsible for what stays alive in your system. Your thoughts are not just ideas, they are signals. They carry emotional energy, they shift your chemistry, they tell your brain which hormones to release. They affect how your heart beats and how your stomach reacts. This is not poetic language, this is scientific truth. Your thoughts become biology, which means if you want to feel different, you have to think different. If you want to live different, you have to lead your mind in a different direction. But here is the part most people miss. You cannot fight negative thoughts with force. You must lead them with clarity. You cannot yell your way into peace. You cannot shame yourself into confidence. You cannot demand joy while feeding fear. You must begin by paying attention to the loop. Awareness is always the first step. You cannot change what you will not confront. Every negative thought is a doorway. It is not a wall. It is not the end. It is not your truth. It is a signal. It is a knock from your inner world saying, pay attention to this, look closer. Something needs to heal here. And if you keep ignoring it, it will only knock louder. But if you sit with it, if you ask it questions, if you learn where it came from, you can reframe it. You can change the narrative. You can remove its power. Your mind does not want to stay in the dark. It wants resolution. It wants to organize the chaos. It wants to learn how to respond instead of react, but it cannot do that if you keep running. You have to stop and listen, not to the noise, but to the pattern behind the noise. Because once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. And once you interrupt it, you can rebuild. Staying stuck is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of unawareness. But now you are aware. You are aware that the mind you carry has been repeating the same story for too long. You are aware that every negative spiral started with a single thought you accepted. You are aware that your brain has been following a program you did not write, and you are aware that it is time to take the pen back. So here is the invitation. Do not try to erase the thoughts, replace them. Do not try to avoid the feeling, observe it. Do not try to fake happiness. Lead yourself into healing. There is a loop in your mind that says you are stuck, but loops can be rewritten. And the truth is this: you are not stuck. You are just early in the process of becoming free. Most people do not realize that their thoughts do not just affect how they feel, they affect how they heal. They do not just shape your mindset, they shape your body. They are not just private, they are physical. Every single thought you have sends a chemical message into your body. Every emotion carries a signal. Every mental pattern has a biological consequence. This is not motivational language, it is neuroscience. You do not catch stress like a virus. You build it, you reinforce it, you multiply it every time you rehearse the same fearful idea or relive the same shameful memory. And over time, that stress moves from being invisible to visible, from being a momentary emotional response to becoming chronic tension in your body. It becomes inflammation, it becomes fatigue, it becomes disease. People talk about feeling heavy, feeling drained, feeling like they are carrying something. They are. That is not just emotional weight, that is neural weight. That is mental load that has been wired so deeply into the system that your body now assumes it is a constant part of your identity. This is what happens when the mind is left unmanaged. It feeds the brain with toxic repetition. It teaches the nervous system to stay alert. It keeps the body in a defensive state even when there is no threat. Your body was never designed to stay in fight or flight forever. It was designed to respond and then return to balance. But for many people, the threat never ends. Not because there is danger around them, but because there is danger inside them. They wake up and immediately brace for something to go wrong. They get a message and feel like they are in trouble. They look at the future and expect the worst, and slowly their body adapts to this fear. It rewires to survive instead of thrive. It stops digesting food properly. It keeps adrenaline flowing long after it is needed. It burns through energy without rest. And all of this begins with thought. Research now confirms that up to 95% of lifestyle diseases can be traced back to unmanaged thought patterns. That means your thoughts are not just emotional reactions, they are contributors to illness. That means your mindset is not just about positivity or optimism, it is about biology and chemistry. It is about hormones and blood pressure. It is about healing or breaking down. This is why labeling emotional responses as permanent disorders can be so damaging. When someone says, I have anxiety or I have depression, it becomes part of their identity. It becomes a fixed definition. It makes the person feel like they are the illness instead of someone experiencing a response to something unresolved. And when your mind accepts that label, your brain and body follow. They adjust to that belief. They adapt to that expectation. They prepare to carry it forever. But anxiety is not an identity. It is a signal. Depression is not who you are. It is a flag waving from your nervous system saying something needs attention. It is your body trying to tell your mind that it is carrying more than it can handle. It is your biology asking for better management, not a permanent label. When you feel panic or dread or shame, that is not a weakness. That is your mind sending a signal that the way you are thinking is unsustainable. And the longer you ignore that signal, the louder it becomes. It will start showing up in your sleep, in your digestion, in your relationships, in your energy, because unprocessed thought does not disappear. It stores. And when the system is overloaded, it starts to break down. But this is not a reason to fear your thoughts. This is a reason to become aware of them. This is a reason to learn how to interrupt the loop and take responsibility for the energy you create every day. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be positive all the time. But you do have to be honest. You do have to be willing to ask what is really driving how you feel and what is really fueling the way your body responds to life. Your thoughts are the steering wheel. Your brain is the engine. Your body is the vehicle. If you do not take the wheel, the vehicle still moves, but it drifts, it crashes, it wears down. But when you become intentional with your thoughts, you begin to drive. You begin to steer toward healing. You begin to create balance. You begin to build a body that responds with strength instead of fear. This is not about faking peace. It is about learning how to build it. It is not about avoiding stress. It is about creating the kind of inner world that knows how to recover. You do not have to live in panic. You do not have to wake up dreading the day. You do not have to feel sick from your own emotions. Your body wants to heal. It just needs your mind to stop making it sick. This is the power you carry every single day. Not just the power to think, but the power to rewire. Not just the power to feel, but the power to direct what those feelings become. Because every thought is a seed, and when you water it with attention, it grows roots in your body. You are either growing health or growing heaviness. You are either building resilience or building resistance. The choice is not always easy, but the choice is always yours. You are not powerless in your healing. You are not helpless in your pain. You are not stuck in your story. You are the one writing the next chapter. And it begins with a single decision To no longer allow your thoughts to be passengers, to start training them to drive with you, to stop letting them run wild, and to start teaching your mind to heal what it once allowed to grow unchecked. Healing does not begin in the body, it begins in the mind, and you already have everything you need to begin again. You were never meant to live inside a diagnosis. You were never meant to carry a label like a name tag on your soul, but that is what happens when the world tells you that your emotions are permanent conditions, that your reaction to pain is a disorder, that the way you feel today is who you are forever. We have built a culture that teaches people to say, I am anxious, I am depressed, I am broken, and we call it self-awareness. But in truth, it is self-imprisonment. When you say, I am depressed, you are not just describing how you feel, you are declaring an identity. You are assigning your name to an experience that was meant to move through you, not live inside you. You are giving permanent space in your mind to something that was supposed to be temporary. And over time, your brain begins to believe it. Your body begins to behave like it. And your life begins to shape itself around it. But depression is not who you are. Anxiety is not your personality. PTSD is not your destiny. These are signals. They are responses. They are messages from your mind and body saying something happened that you have not yet made peace with. Something painful, something confusing, something that made you feel unsafe or unseen or unloved. And that something created a pattern, a thought loop, a way of coping. Not because you were weak, but because your mind did not know how else to protect you. This is why we must stop treating emotions like diagnoses. You would not call yourself a stove just because you feel heat. You would not call yourself a flood just because you feel overwhelmed. You would say, I am experiencing heat, I am overwhelmed right now, but it will pass. The same is true for mental pain. The fact that you feel depressed does not mean you are depression. It means your mind is trying to alert you that something inside needs attention. Something needs to be seen. When you accept a label without understanding its purpose, you stop asking deeper questions. You stop exploring. You stop healing. You begin to explain everything through the lens of that label. You begin to protect the label, and the longer you hold it, the heavier it becomes. Because now, instead of processing the pain, you are performing the role of someone who is permanently broken, and that role starts to feel real, but it is not real. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your trauma. You are not the darkest moment of your story. You are the one who lived through it. You are the one who is still here. And that means there is something stronger in you than the pain you went through. That strength is not in your brain. It is in your mind. It is in your ability to observe the pattern and decide to write a new one. Not by force, but by presence, by awareness, by intention. Imagine a person with diabetes. Their body does not produce insulin. That is a physical condition with a clear medical path. Now imagine someone who feels hopeless after the loss of a loved one. That is grief. That is sorrow. That is a human reaction. But when we take that reaction and call it a disorder, we miss the truth. The truth is not that this person is ill. The truth is that this person is hurting. The solution is not to suppress the signal. The solution is to listen to it. You cannot heal what you will not feel. You cannot grow through what you refuse to acknowledge, and you cannot reclaim your story if you keep calling yourself by the name of your wound. You must begin to speak about your pain as something you are passing through, not something you are becoming. This shift in language is more than semantics. It is the beginning of transformation. When you say, I feel anxious instead of I am anxious, you are separating your identity from your experience. You are giving yourself space to change. You are giving yourself permission to grow. You are saying, I am aware of what is happening inside me, but I am not defined by it. Your mind is powerful. It listens to everything you say about yourself. It records every thought, every label, every belief, and then it instructs your brain to act accordingly. That is how identity becomes biology. That is how belief becomes behavior. And that is how the words I am can either imprison you or free you. You do not have to fake strength. You just have to stop calling yourself weak. You do not have to pretend everything is fine. You just have to stop naming yourself by the storm you are in. There is a difference between being honest and being hopeless. Honesty says, I am struggling. Hopelessness says, I will always struggle. One opens the door to healing, the other locks it shut. The world may try to put a label on your pain, but you get to decide if it stays. You get to decide what you call yourself in the middle of the storm. You get to decide whether you live as a victim of your pain or a student of your healing. That decision begins with language. It begins with how you speak to yourself when no one is listening. So if you are struggling today, do not shrink into a label. Rise into awareness. Say what you feel, but do not become it. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not stuck. You are awakening. You are not your diagnosis. You are the one powerful enough to change the story it lives in. And that story is not over. Not yet. Not even close. They told you it was too late. They told you the damage was permanent. They told you the way you think is just the way you are. But science tells a different story. Science says your brain is not fixed. It is not frozen in time. It is not too far gone. Science says your brain changes every single day. And the most powerful thing shaping it is not your past, not your pain, not your DNA. It is your mind. You are not stuck because you are broken. You are stuck because you have repeated the same thoughts for so long that your brain started building them into structure. It is not personal, it is neurological. Your brain is always listening. It listens to your words, your beliefs, your fears, your patterns, and whatever it hears the most, it builds into reality. But here is what they do not teach in school. The brain that built those patterns can break them too. The same process that created your fear can create your peace. The same neurons that built anxiety can build courage. The same pathways that used to carry pain can start carrying purpose. Because your brain is not your enemy, it is your mirror. It reflects what your mind feeds it. This is called neuroplasticity. It means your brain is not a machine. It is alive, it is moldable, it responds to experience, to thought, to intention. And every time you interrupt a toxic thought and replace it with something conscious, you are rewiring your brain. You are teaching it a new pattern. You are showing it that the old story does not have to keep playing. Think of it like a path in a forest. The more you walk it, the clearer it becomes. The grass dies, the trail is obvious. That is your default thought. But just a few feet away is a patch of grass no one has stepped on. That is your new thought. It is unfamiliar. It feels hard. It takes energy. But the more you walk it, the easier it becomes. Eventually, that becomes the path, and the old one disappears. This is not a metaphor. This is how your brain actually works. It prunes old connections that are not used. It strengthens new ones that are repeated. You are not stuck because of the thoughts you have. You are stuck because of the thoughts you repeat. But repetition works both ways. And every time you show up for yourself, you are teaching your brain something new. That is what healing looks like. Not one giant breakthrough, but 1,000 quiet choices, one breath at a time, one thought at a time. One moment of awareness where you say, I know this voice and I'm not following it today. One decision where you say, this is the old path, but I choose the new one. That is how your brain begins to change. That is how your life begins to change. People often say they want transformation, but transformation is not magic. It is daily discipline. It is consistency over intensity. It is not about fixing yourself. It is about forming new circuits. You do not erase the past. You do not delete the pain, but you reframe it. You build around it. You choose to carry something else. And that choice is what shapes the future, even in cases of trauma, even in cases of brain injury, even in moments where it feels like too much has been lost. The mind still has power. The mind can still send new signals. The mind can still create new patterns. Dr. Caroline Leaf told a story about a 16-year-old girl who had a traumatic brain injury. She could barely function. She was told she would never return to normal life. But after months of intentional mind training, she not only recovered, she exceeded her past performance. She became a top student. She healed emotionally. She rebuilt what was lost. That is the power of neuroplasticity. That is the power of the mind when it stops surrendering to the worst and starts leading the way. The mind tells the brain what to do, and the brain follows. which means your thoughts are not background noise. They are blueprints. They are instructions. They are seeds. And the longer you water them, the stronger they grow. So if you want to change your life, do not start with your habits. Start with your thoughts. Do not start with your schedule. Start with your internal script. Do not wait for motivation. Create momentum by making a single decision. I will not rehearse fear. I will not nurture shame. I will not serve thoughts that leave me empty. I will walk a new path. I will think a new thought. I will write a new line in the story of who I am becoming. You do not need a perfect brain to begin again. You just need to tell your mind the truth that change is possible, the truth that healing is real, the truth that your past is not your pattern, the truth that your brain is listening and it is waiting for you to speak something different. You are not cement. You are clay. You are not damaged beyond repair. You are a living process. Every morning, your brain wakes up ready to follow your lead. What you feed it becomes your reality. What you repeat becomes your rhythm. What you focus on becomes your function. So stop calling yourself broken. Stop waiting for a miracle. Stop believing that the best parts of you are behind you. Your brain is changing whether you know it or not. The only question is, who is guiding that change? Is it your fear or your faith? Is it your past or your purpose? Is it the old story or the new one you are brave enough to write? You can change your brain, and when you do, you change your life. Not because everything outside of you changes, but because the way you experience it does. And when your experience changes, everything changes with it. Change is not about forcing your thoughts into silence. It is not about pretending you are fine. And it is not about chasing positivity like a prize you have to earn. Real change begins when you decide to lead your mind instead of letting your mind lead you. Most people live in reaction. They respond to pain after it hurts. They try to fix their emotions after they spiral. But there is a better way. There is a method that helps you manage your mind instead of being managed by it. That method is the Neurocycle. The Neurocycle is not a quick fix. It is not a motivational slogan. It is a process, a daily discipline, a roadmap for how to catch toxic thoughts early and rewire your brain before they become your identity. It is based on decades of neuroscience, and it has already helped thousands of people around the world take back control from anxiety, trauma, burnout, and depression. But it only works if you work it. Most people try to think their way into peace. But peace is not an idea, it is a habit. And like every habit, it must be formed one step at a time. That is what makes the Neurocycle so powerful. It does not just tell you to stop overthinking, it teaches you how. It does not just inspire you to take control, it gives you the steps to do it in real time. Step one is gather awareness. This is where you stop running from the noise in your mind and start listening to it, not to believe it, but to observe it. To become aware of what is showing up in your body, your emotions, your behaviors, and your mindset. Ask yourself 4 questions. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it in my body? What am I doing because of it? And how am I seeing the world through it? This step brings you back into the present. It slows down the spiral. It reminds you that you are not the thought, you are the one noticing it. And the moment you observe your mental pattern without judgment is the moment you begin to weaken its grip. You cannot change what you refuse to see. So see it, name it, acknowledge it without shame. Step 2 is reflect. This is where you ask why. Why do I feel this way? Why is my body reacting like this? Why do I always shut down in moments like this? Reflection is not about solving the problem immediately. It is about searching for the root. It is about getting curious about your patterns instead of being critical about them. It is about learning how your story shaped your response so you can begin to shape a different response. Use the WH questions. Who was involved? When did this start? What triggered it? Where do I usually experience it? How often does it happen? These questions are not pressure, they are perspective. They help you create distance between you and the emotion. They help you connect the dots between how you feel and where it came from. Step 3 is write. But this is not journaling in a traditional sense. This is a mind storm, a messy, raw, honest flood of what you are feeling and thinking and remembering. Grab a blank sheet of paper. Draw a circle in the middle. Put your main thought in the center. Something like, I am going to fail, or I feel like I am not enough. Then draw lines outward and fill them with connected feelings, images, memories, and beliefs. Do not filter. Do not fix it yet. Just empty it. Let the noise come out. Because if you do not get it out, it stays inside and becomes a weight you carry without knowing it. Writing allows your mind to visualize what has been invisible, and the more you see it, the more power you have to shift it. Step 4 is recheck. This is where the work begins to turn. This is where you challenge what you wrote and start to reframe it. You ask, is this thought completely true? What else could be true? What belief have I built around this, and is it serving me? What would I tell someone I love if they were thinking this way? Rechecking is not pretending something never happened. It is choosing not to let the past hold the pen in your present. It is saying, yes, I was hurt, but I am healing. Yes, I failed, but I am learning. Yes, I believe that lie, but I no longer agree with it. This step is where the rewiring happens. It is where you teach your brain a new language, not by force, but by clarity. You cannot live free when you keep rehearsing the logic of fear. Rechecking helps you rewrite the pattern. Step 5 is active reach. This is the anchor. This is the action you take to remind your brain of the new direction you have chosen. It can be a statement like, I am safe now, or I am allowed to grow, or I am not that old version of myself anymore. It can be a mental image, a gesture, a song, a breath, or a physical movement like wiggling your toes or touching your heart. The goal is to ground the new thought into your daily rhythm. The brain learns through repetition. So each time the old pattern tries to pull you back, you reach for your new anchor. You repeat it. You feel it. You choose it again. Over time, the new path becomes easier than the old one. And that is how transformation becomes sustainable. This 5-step process works best when you repeat it daily for at least 21 days. That is how long it takes to break down an old toxic thought and begin forming a new healthy one. But real habit formation takes 63 days. The first 21 days is deconstruction. The next 42 is reinforcement. That is where most people give up. But if you want to truly rewire your mind, you have to keep showing up, even when it feels small, even when you do not see results right away. Because every time you walk that path, it gets clearer. And every step forward is a vote for the version of you you are becoming. You are not rewiring your brain to be perfect. You are rewiring it to be free. You are not doing this to avoid pain. You are doing this to face it and emerge stronger. You are not trying to erase the past. You are learning how to carry it without letting it control your future. This is the invitation: to stop surviving in silence, to stop letting your thoughts choose your identity, to stop believing that change is out of reach. You have the tool, you have the time, and now you have the truth. Your brain can be rewired, your thoughts can be redesigned, your inner world can become your strength instead of your prison. The process begins when you decide to begin. So begin. And when the noise comes back tomorrow, begin again, because you are not the mess. You are the one who can clean it up, one step at a time, one thought at a time, one decision at a time. That is how a new mind is born, and that is how you rise. You do not need a new life. You need a new rhythm, because most people are not failing from lack of effort. They are failing from lack of consistency. They start strong, but stop too soon. They feel better for a few days and think they are done. They have one breakthrough and believe the battle is over. But healing does not happen in one decision. It happens in a rhythm, and that rhythm needs time. Your mind is not a light switch. You cannot flip it and expect a new pattern to stay. It is more like a garden. You plant a seed and water it. You wait, you fight the weeds. You keep showing up even when you do not see the fruit. And if you keep showing up long enough, something grows, something takes root, and that something becomes your new way of thinking. The science is clear. It takes 21 days to begin breaking down a toxic thought. That is the phase of awareness and disruption. You notice the pattern, you interrupt it, you introduce a new narrative. And that feels powerful. It feels fresh. It feels like something is finally changing, but that is not the end. That is only the beginning, because what you are building is still fragile. It is not yet automatic. It is not yet strong enough to stand without reinforcement. This is where most people stop. Day 14, day 18, day 22, they feel better. The storm feels quieter, so they move on. They stop repeating the new thoughts. They stop journaling. They stop anchoring themselves. And the old pattern returns, not because they failed, but because they stopped too soon. Because the roots were not deep enough to last. The real change happens in the next 42 days. That is the stabilization phase. This is where the new thought moves from being conscious to automatic, from fragile to stable, from effortful to natural. It is in this phase that the brain builds stronger neural networks around the new mindset. The chemistry begins to shift. The emotional reaction begins to calm. The body begins to align. And the mind begins to trust this new pattern. But this phase is also quieter, less dramatic, less emotional, which is why people underestimate it. There are no fireworks, no big breakthroughs, just repetition, just daily return, just the discipline of continuing to speak the truth even when it feels boring, just the decision to keep walking the path even when it feels like nothing new is happening, but something is happening. Deep beneath the surface, your brain is reinforcing what you said mattered. Your body is learning how to feel safe in the new story. Your nervous system is learning not to panic. Your identity is shifting. Most people are addicted to beginnings. They love the excitement of a new thought, a new plan, a new version of themselves, but they have not trained themselves to endure the middle. And the middle is where the miracle happens. It is not fast, it is not loud, but it is real, and it is worth every step. You are not meant to stop at day 21. You are meant to keep going until the new thought becomes who you are, until it shows up without being forced, until it speaks louder than the old story ever did, until your brain stops reaching for fear and starts resting in clarity, until your emotions follow the new path without resistance. That takes 63 days, not 21, not 30, not one journal entry or one moment of inspiration. It takes a season of repetition. That is the cost of freedom, and it is worth every moment. Think about how long the old pattern lived in your mind. Think about how many years you believed you were not enough. Think about how many times you rehearsed the voice that told you to stay small. That voice was not born in a day. It was built over time. And if it was built over time, it can be rebuilt over time. But you have to give your new truth the same patience you gave your old pain. You do not water a plant once and expect it to bloom. You do not show up to the gym for 2 weeks and expect to be strong for life. And you do not think a new thought for a few days and expect it to erase a decade of shame. This is not about speed. It is about staying power. It is about choosing your future over and over again until your brain learns to follow without question. The 63-day process is not punishment. It is protection. It protects you from slipping back. It protects you from losing the ground you fought to gain. It protects you from believing that short-term relief is the same as long-term change. It teaches your brain that this new story is not a trend. It is your truth. Each day of the cycle matters. Day 1 matters, day 32 matters, day 63 matters. Not because each day feels like a breakthrough, but because each day adds strength to the root. And one day, without warning, you will wake up and realize the old thought has gone quiet. The old emotion has lost its grip. The old belief no longer fits. And you did not fight your way there. You repeated your way there. You practiced freedom until it became your natural state. So if you are on day 5, keep going. If you are on day 20, keep going. If you stopped at day 22, pick it back up. It is not about being perfect. It is about being committed. It is about building something that lasts, because healing that lasts takes time that is respected. And respect means staying even when it is hard. This is your permission to stop rushing, to stop expecting instant transformation, to stop giving up too early. Your mind is changing even when it feels slow. Your brain is rewiring even when it feels quiet. Your identity is evolving even when you are not sure you see it. Trust the process. Trust the repetition. Trust the quiet middle, because the quiet middle is where the foundation is built. The future you want is not waiting at the finish line. It is being formed in every decision you make today. It is being built in the unseen places, in the daily practices, in the choice to write the new thought again, to say the truth again, to reach for the anchor again. That is where new beginnings are born. Not in the rush, in the rhythm. You have everything you need to finish what you started. You are not too tired. You are not too late. You are not too damaged. You are simply in the middle. And the middle is holy ground because it is where the seed finally breaks open. It is where the root finds the earth. It is where the new thing begins to grow. Stay long enough to see it become something beautiful. Stay long enough to call it home. Stay long enough to say, this is who I am now, not because I tried harder, but because I stayed longer. That is how real change takes root. And that is how you rise. You know that moment when your stomach drops, when your chest tightens, when one message or one thought pulls you under? It happens fast. You hear a tone in someone's voice, you see a notification. You remember something you were trying to forget, and suddenly your mind starts racing. You do not even know where it came from, but now you are drowning in it. You are spinning. You are trying to act normal, but inside it feels like everything is falling apart. That is what we call a spiral, not because you chose it, but because it pulls you with force. And if you do not interrupt it early, it becomes your atmosphere, your mood, your reaction, your day. That is why you need something faster than your fear. You need a way to meet the spiral before it wraps around your thinking. You need a tool that works in real life when life is too fast for 5 steps or deep reflection. That tool is the 63-second pause. 63 seconds is all it takes to catch a thought before it builds momentum. All it takes to reset the signal. All it takes to bring your mind back into the moment instead of letting it get dragged into panic. This is not a full reset. This is a rescue. It is the break between trigger and reaction. And sometimes that is all you need to make a better choice. Here is how it works. Step 1, acknowledge what just happened, out loud if possible, in your head if necessary. Name what you are feeling and why. Say, this message made me feel nervous because I think I am being judged. Say, this silence made me feel abandoned because I still carry that memory. Say, this pressure made me feel like a failure because I tied my worth to outcomes. You are not fixing anything yet. You are just bringing it into the light because what stays hidden controls you. But what is spoken begins to shift. Step 2, breathe with purpose. Not just to calm your nerves, but to direct your attention. Count your breath in, 2 short inhales. Hold for 2 seconds, then breathe out for 6 seconds. In the first 3 counts of your exhale, silently say let. In the last 3 counts, say go. Do this cycle 3 times. That takes about 30 seconds. That is all. But it slows your brain. It redirects your thoughts. It clears space. Step 3, reach for a new anchor, a single statement, not a cliche. Something that reminds your body who you are and what is true. Something like, I am safe, I can handle this. I have felt this before and it did not break me. I do not have the full answer, but I know the next right step. Say it silently, say it slowly, let it land. This is the rhythm. Acknowledge, breathe, anchor. It sounds simple, it feels small, but this is what strength looks like in the moment when fear tries to hijack your mind. It is not about being perfect. It is about being present. You do not have to win the whole battle in 63 seconds. You just have to stay awake, stay conscious, stay out of the old loop that used to own you. Most spirals are not logical. They are emotional patterns tied to old pain, and they move fast. You will not outthink them. You have to meet them where they start, in the body, in the breath. In the first thought that appears before the flood, and if you catch it early enough, you can lead yourself instead of reacting out of habit. You can choose your response instead of regretting it later. You know the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is fast, defensive, automatic. Responding is steady, grounded, intentional. This pause puts you in position to respond. It gives your mind space to find the wiser part of you, the part that sees the bigger picture, the part that remembers who you are even when the moment feels overwhelming. You are not weak. because the spiral came. You are human, but you are strong when you do not let it win. And this tool gives you that power back. You may not control the text, the silence, the pressure, the unexpected news, but you can control how long it lives inside you. You can choose what gets planted and what gets released. The reason this matters is because most emotional damage does not come from the initial moment. It comes from the rumination, the replaying, the reinforcing, the part where you take the spiral and build it into a story, but when you interrupt it early, you stop it from becoming the story. You stop it from stealing the day. You stop it from spreading into how you treat others, into how you see yourself, into how you show up to the rest of your life. You do not need hours to rescue your mind. You just need 63 seconds of honesty, 63 seconds of breathing, 63 seconds of anchoring your thoughts in something deeper than your emotion. This is not a gimmick, it is neuroscience. The brain begins to encode emotional reactions into memory within about a minute. But if you speak to the emotion first, you change what gets encoded. You redirect the story, so next time your chest tightens, next time your heart races, next time your shoulders tense, next time your mind starts screaming and your thoughts start racing, stop, speak, breathe, anchor. You are not avoiding the pain. You are stepping into it with clarity, with calm, with courage. You are not helpless in those moments. You are powerful, not because you feel strong, but because you know what to do when you feel weak. That is what makes the difference. Not perfection, not control, just presence. Just 63 seconds of presence, and then another moment and another, until the old spiral breaks and a new pattern begins. That is how you rescue your mind. That is how you protect your peace. That is how you stay rooted when the storm begins to swirl. One breath, one thought, one pause that reminds you the spiral does not have to win today. You do. No one is coming to save you. That is not bad news. That is the best truth you could ever hear, because it means you already have what you need. You are not waiting for permission. You are not waiting for the right time. You are not waiting for someone to believe in you. You are the one. You are the one who leads your healing. You are the one who rewrites your story. You are the one who makes peace with the past and creates space for the future. You are the one who chooses what stays and what no longer belongs. There will always be storms. There will always be noise. There will always be something around you trying to distract what is within you. But peace is not the absence of chaos. It is the presence of clarity. And clarity comes from knowing who you are even when nothing around you agrees. Clarity comes from standing still in the middle of the pressure and saying, I will not go back to the old pattern. Clarity comes when you stop waiting for someone to make you feel safe and start becoming the safety you have been searching for. That is the work you have been doing. Through every part of this journey, you have been reclaiming the ground you gave away. You have been choosing thought over reaction, intention over impulse, mind over noise. You have learned that your brain is not your enemy. It is not the problem. It is the result. The brain reflects whatever the mind repeats, and the mind follows whatever story you keep telling. That means every thought you allowed with purpose became a seed. Every breath you took when you wanted to snap became a boundary. Every time you wrote the truth instead of rehearsing the pain, you were planting new roots. They may not have shown up right away, but they are growing, and they will outlive the fear if you keep watering them. You have learned that healing is not about never hurting. It is about knowing what to do when the hurt comes. It is not about erasing the past. It is about changing how the past speaks into your present. You are no longer listening to the voice that said, this is just who I am. You are listening to the deeper voice, the quieter one, the one that says, I get to choose again. You have learned that depression is not your identity, that anxiety is not your name, that trauma is not your label. They are real, they are heavy, but they are not you. They are responses. They are signals. And you are the one who decides what to do with the signal. You do not suppress it. You do not deny it. You observe it. You feel it. You reflect on it. You redirect it. And with time, you rewire what your brain used to believe was permanent. You have learned that change takes time, that thoughts do not shift in a moment, but in a rhythm, that it takes more than inspiration to build a new identity. It takes repetition, the kind that feels small, the kind that feels slow, the kind that feels invisible. But invisible does not mean ineffective. Every time you showed up for yourself, you were building something no one else could see. And one day, they will see it too. But by then, you will no longer need their validation because you will already know who you are. You are the one who leads. You are the one who rises, not because life got easier, but because you got deeper, because you learned to sit with the hard thing and not be shaken, because you looked your patterns in the face and told the truth, because you reached for peace in the middle of the mess, because you stopped agreeing with the thoughts that used to own you, because you built something stronger. And it was not a feeling, it was a foundation. Now the work continues, not because you are behind, but because you are awake. You no longer follow the world that told you to keep performing. You no longer chase approval to feel enough. You know your value is not in what you do or what others see. It is in your presence. It is in the voice you choose to believe. It is in the silence between the reaction and the response. It is in the pause where you choose love instead of shame. You will still feel afraid. That does not mean you are failing. You will still have old thoughts show up. That does not mean they are in control. You will still be tempted to go back, but you will know the difference now. You will know the way forward, and that knowing will guide you back to center. That knowing will remind you that this life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. You are the one who leads, not the one who waits, not the one who hides, not the one who reacts. You are the one who stands in the middle of the storm and says, I have been here before and I know what to do now. You are the one who sees the text and breathes before responding. You are the one who feels the spiral but chooses a better anchor. You are the one who speaks kindness into your own soul when the noise gets loud again. You are not done growing. You are not done learning, but you are done believing the lie that you are not enough. You are done letting shame write your future. You are done waiting for someone to rescue you from the mess you were born to rise through. You are done giving your energy to what was. Now you are focused on what will be. You are the one who leads. And that is why your life is already changing. Not because everything outside is different, but because everything inside is awake, aligned, anchored, and ready. Now it is your turn to take what you know and keep living it forward. Start your 63-day process today. Pick one thought you are done letting control you. Walk it through the Neurocycle, one breath at a time, one page at a time, one anchor at a time. And when the spiral shows up, you will know what to do because you have already decided who you are becoming. And if you are ready to go deeper, to rebuild your rhythm from the inside out, to live this work, not just know it, then keep showing up here, keep learning, keep practicing, keep leading. Because the world needs people who are not just awake, but aligned, not just healed, but whole. And that begins with one person who chooses to lead themselves first. Let that person be you. You are the one who leads, and you always have been.